Movies about the mafia and gangsters are distinguished by the romanticization of the images of characters in the criminal world. We suggest you dive into the real history of the criminal world and get acquainted with the names and fates of legendary mafiosi. Certain codes of honor were found among such personalities, but this set of rules was not always based on generally accepted principles of morality. Al Capone. This name ranks first in the list of world-famous mafiosi. It is known even to those who have no idea about the mafia. The American gangster with Italian roots terrified all of America in the 20-40s of the 20th century. He went down in history as the head of the Genovese clan, the most brutal and very cunning mafioso. It was never possible to prove his involvement in any murders. But Al Capone still ended up in prison. Due to tax evasion, he spent 5 years in prison. Although the great mafioso managed to annoy many, he died a natural death, from pneumonia. Many films and TV series have been made about him. Surely you remember Scarface or The Untouchables. But there are also newer ones. In 2010, the series Boardwalk Empire was launched, which has already had 5 seasons and more than 20 Emmy Awards. Pablo Escobar. In terms of notoriety in the criminal world and far beyond, this name is in no way inferior to Al Capone. Colombian Escobar is the creator of the world's largest drug trafficking empire around the world, gaining fame as drug lord number 1. The era of his reign fell on the 60s to 90s of the 20th century. Surprisingly, this legendary mafioso started with petty theft in cemeteries. By the age of 22, his track record included counterfeiting lottery tickets, selling drugs, stealing cars, robberies and racketeering, for which Pablo acquired fame as a criminal authority. More than 1,000 people were killed on Escobar's orders. Colombians feared and at the same time revered this mafioso, since they got their own homes from him. He died from a stray police bullet in 1993. This persona is also often used by directors. But the most famous of the recent films was Escobar, with the sweet couple Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem in the leading roles. Lucky Luciano. Like Al Capone, Luciano was the head of the Genovese Mafia. He was the one who was behind the division of America into 5 zones of influence of separate criminal groups and the formation of the modern American Mafia. He is still remembered in the States as the father of organized crime. Sicilian Luciano moved to New York in 1909, where he began his entry into the world of crime as a drug courier. Subsequently, he joined a mafia clan, and after another redistribution of the sphere of power, he headed the criminal group. Luciano survived brutal torture, for which he was nicknamed Lucky. He took revenge on all his enemies and competitors and headed the New York Mafia, and also became the head of Cosa Nostra. In 1946, the king of the New York Mafia was exiled to his homeland in Sicily. There he was going to star in a film about himself, but suddenly died of a heart attack, never becoming a movie star. Vincent Gigantti. When Al Capone and Lucky Luciano were just beginning their ascent to criminal glory, a guy was born who was destined to surpass these legendary mafiosi and take control of almost all American cities. Starting out as a boxer, Vincent soon went over to the dark side of crime, becoming one of the members of the Genovese clan. Subsequently, Gigantti received the status of godfather of this mafioso family. Despite such a formidable status, Vincent demonstrated various quirks. Because of his habit of walking around the city at night in a robe, he was nicknamed the Pajama King. But all sorts of crazy antics of Gigantti were just a simulation of mental deviations, allowing him to remain unnoticed by the police. As a result, the great mafioso was sent to jail, simultaneously revealing his absolute sanity. Even while in prison, Vincent continued his criminal activities until he died of a heart attack in 2005. Judy Moran. When talking about famous mafiosi, we usually remember the men of the criminal world, not the fairer sex. But the queen of the Australian mafia, Judy Moran, is definitely not weak. The cold-blooded head of the Moran crime family earned the nickname Al Capone in a skirt. She has drug trafficking, robberies, fraud, murder on her account. The vengeful woman always carefully thought out all her crimes. But, you must admit, Looking at the photo of this beautiful elderly lady, it is difficult to believe that she is a famous drug baron and head of the Mafia? Maria Licciardi. When mentioning legendary female mafiosi, one cannot help but recall this name. Maria was born into a family that belonged to the Neapolitan Mafia. It is unlikely that she had the opportunity to choose a different fate. After the death of her husband and the arrest of her brothers, she headed the clan. Licciardi was able to unite the disparate clans into a single family, to which Naples was completely subordinated. If earlier the Sicilian Mafia Code prohibited human trafficking, then under this Iron Lady this type of activity began to be encouraged along with drug trafficking and smuggling. Despite all this, the Sicilian residents respected Licciardi. Her mafia paid subsidies to poor people that the state did not provide, and provided legal work. In 2001, the head of the Sicilian Mafia was arrested. Power passed to her older brother. The Cray Twins. The Cray Twins are legends of the London Mafia of the 1950s and 60s. Their criminal fame even reached America. In their youth, the twins were predicted to become professional boxing stars. But due to problems with the law, they acquired a different kind of fame in the vastness of the criminal world. Car theft, racketeering, arson, and eventually murder became the calling card of the Cray brothers. In parallel with their criminal activities, they legally owned a nightclub, which was visited by many celebrities. You have probably heard of these brothers, and perhaps even seen the legendary film with Tom Hardy in the lead role. Or roles? Yes, the actor plays both, completely different brothers. Yoshio Kodama. This name is a legend of the Japanese Mafia. After World War II, Yoshio Kodama became the godfather of the Yakuza. He managed to successfully maneuver between political parties and criminal groups. Espionage and corruption were Kodama's favorite means to achieve his goals, for which he was nicknamed Black Fog. For the supply of rare metals necessary for the military industry, Yoshio received the title of Rear Admiral. They all walked a very slippery and dangerous path, and although they managed to maneuver between crime and punishment, for none of them, this story ended well. Subscribe to the channel so as not to miss all the most interesting